Hello everyone, this is January 2023. It's time for some smarter goals to be set, that is definitely sure. And in smarter goals, it's not so much being smart, it's being smarter. At this point of the season, you want to make sure that you have at least a few days that you're guaranteed to practice and you know exactly why you started in the first place. You want to get better, you see the long-term reward for all the hard work that you're putting in. But ultimately, it revolves around a smart goal setting system, and in this case, S. What specific goal do you need to work on? And in this case, you know my goal structure. We all base it around 5 basic premises of what musicianship is all about, getting better at music is all about. Firstly, you need to know the notes. If you don't know the notes of a piece, how do you expect to get any better at anything else? Once you know the notes, then obviously we want to work on the rhythm. If we know how a piece goes and we know the notes and we know how it goes, then we can work on the structure of it, the breathing, the 4 bars of sentence, the movement within that phrase. That's the structure and breathing. Then we can only add emotion from there. But you need to know the notes, to know the rhythm, to know the structure in order to be adding some expression, adding some flow, adding some heart. And then from there, I call it potato salad, which basically is analyzing your piece of music right from the get-go and determining, is this something that I can learn within 5 to 20 times, or is this something I'm going to be learning from 5 to 20 years? I do have those pieces, by the way. But in this case, where are you? Where were you? Where are you wanting to go? First of all, you have to determine what was your last kind of goal that you worked on. And we did this, a lot of my students did this within October. We set an actual goal for the next 3 months, that October, November, December. Now that we're in January, reflect upon October, November, December. Did you actually get better at something that we talked about? Neat beans. Then maybe graduate to the next one. It also depends on the workload that you're putting in the other areas of your life, whether it be school, work, other things, relationships with ourselves, self-care, mental health. It all has to be considered, especially when you're setting goals. You don't want it to be too obscene or something that you can't accomplish. So have a specific goal in mind. Then how do we measure that goal? Well, it's all based on repetition. It all is based upon how many times through a piece do you need to know it well enough to be like, yep, I've succeeded in my goal. Neat beans. So you should know your notes between 3 to 5 times. Within rhythms, you should know about 5 to 10 times through a piece. You kind of get how it goes. If by 5 to 10 times you don't know how a piece goes, it's either way too hard for you, or what were you thinking of? What was on your mind? What were you too busy and too distracted by? Or is it a day of procrastination? That also happens. When it's for structure and understanding breathing, it's between like 12 to 20 times, because you actually need to get pretty decent at the song in order to be able to be like, I need to breathe here. Yes. And then for expression, you need to know a song pretty well in order to be like, hey, I'm going to add some dynamics now. So that's anywhere between 15 to 25. But for me, some of my songs, I need to play them 50 times through in order to feel confident with the song, to then add some Dana flair and all that jazz. But when it comes down to potato salad and this interpretation stage, sometimes from the get-go, you need to be analyzing your piece, which means that before you even play it, identify what the key signature is, what the time signature is. Are there any Italian words you may or may not know? Is there a tempo marking? Is there a BPM marking? Something to give away parts of the answers of how this is going to go before Dana lets me know how this is going to go. Obviously, you might not have a teacher around to let you know how things are going to actually shape up, how they are going to sound right from the get-go. So use some Dana-isms, use some of your isms. How do the first 2 bars go? Say them before you play them. That's potato salad, that's interpretation. So when you set a specific goal and you know how to measure it based on repetition, then you can fix what sucks with doorbell, ding dong, transition between 2 notes, kind of like F sharp to D sharp on the flute. Then we have our scale section, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Getting better at scales, and the most common, you repeat the bar, you repeat the riff. You repeat that 1 bar, but then repeat a little bit before, repeat a little bit after, and then put it back into the piece. Go from the top of the piece to the bottom. See if it ends up being better. But the repetition is 3 to 5 times. You want to be repeating things 3 to 5 times in order to be like, I think I got better at this. That's how you measure it. So if you have something specific, you know how to measure it. Now you need to know, what's my action plan? What did I do? What do I need to adjust, if anything? And where do I want to go with this? It also depends on what activities and commitments you have for the next 3 months. Literally 3 months. So some of those seasonal sports, those come in play right now. But definitely, over the last, say, September to December, if you started in September, over 4 months, what days did you practice more often than not? Were there 2 to 4 floating days that just so happened to happen after all the other stuff that I was doing? Or were you like, Tuesdays and Thursdays are my day for 32 minutes? Find out what they are and adjust if need be. If you want to get better, you obviously just need to put in more practice. Put in one more day, or on those 3 days you know that you're really consistent, add 10 more minutes to each practice. 10 more minutes each practice on 3 is an extra 30 minutes a week. So imagine how you're going to sound after a month when you dedicate that much more time, and that's only 10 minutes more per practice. So what are your other commitments? If you're pretty heavy on your other commitments, then make sure you're working around that, but you're not practicing the day of the lesson. It's really tough to be like, oh, I actually totally learned something from last lesson if you're waiting until the next lesson day to prove that you actually retained some information. There should be like a day of music, maybe a day of rest, a day of music, day of rest, day of music, if that's how you want to start your routine. But if you're like 2 to 4 years into your musicianship, you know what to do. You know how to turn up the ante. Now, in the other case of being the R of SMART, if you set a specific goal that's measurable, that has action step, is it realistic? Is it something that you can actually achieve? And there's 1 or 2 ways to look at this. Quantity. Do you need to physically practice more, or quality? Do you need to worry about what you're practicing? Most of the time it is a quality goal, but some students who find it really hard to find 1 or 2 days, they're going to have a quantity goal. So figure that out for yourself. Time is our last step of the SMART goals, and we always use 3 months. So January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. January is a time to resolve, but it's really not. It's just a starting of a new year. So it's not a new year, new you. It's just revamping something. Does it work, or do we need to change it? And using those 3 months as identifying whether or not you need to change. Now for the ER of SMARTer, expectation management. If by this time of the season, you've been in lessons for a while and you're still only practicing 1 or 2 days, it's showing to your parents, it's showing to the resources that they're giving, it's showing to me, and it's showing to you. Do you really want to do this? So make a plan, make an intention with yourself. Do more, do less, but you get the consequences of your actions or inaction in this case. And the R, remember why you started in the first place. If you don't exactly remember why you're trying to get better at music, why are you trying to get better at music? You have to remember at least the reason why. Do I want to join a band? Do I want to impress my friends? Do I want to get certification for examination? What do you actually want as your long-term goal? Because sometimes it's not even so much, what do I want to do in these 3 months? What are you doing in these 3 months to plan for maybe the next 3 years of your musicianship? That's what it's all about. And then when we talk about breaking down your practice, no matter how long it is, we all have those lazy days. We have those procrastination days. We have those days where we're like, I don't want to play. Of course not. Like, those days happen. They happen to me too, man. Completely to me too. But in this case, it doesn't matter how long your practice is, even if you have that 6-minute practice, 10-minute practice, you want to put in 3 basic fundamentals. And you know what they are, babies. Scales, because they are skills, working on the songs that we play of the week, and finishing with fun. So when you're playing scales, it is 25% of the time, and it's a range. So say you have a half an hour practice, half an hour is 15, half of that is 7.5. That's a weird time. So instead, let's do 5 to 10 minutes of scales. If you're feeling kind of icky, play 1 or 2 scales 3 to 5 times through each piece and then finish with something fun. That's 10 minutes. But if you're like, you know what, I'm self-disciplined, I actually really want to get better at my instrument, and even if I don't want to play today, I'm still going to play and I'm still going to have fun. So I'm going to put even 3 to 5 minutes of scales together, and it will feel good. And then you have one of those days where you're like, I'm rocking it. Play 10 minutes of scales completely. But you got to warm up in one way, shape, or form. That's how we warm up our instrument. Even if it's our voice, that's how we warm up. But 25% of your time should be dedicated to the scales. Then for our songs of the week, it's 60% of the time. Well, that's like 15 to 20 minutes if it's a half an hour practice. You should be playing your 2 to 4 songs that you get assigned 3 to 5 times each, and then playing those bars that suck, going back and fixing a doorbell, going and playing the scale portions again, but fixing it with one of those 3 entities, because that's basically what you need to do in order to get better at the songs. Then whatever you find fun, 15% of the time. It can be 3 minutes, it can be 10 minutes, it can be 20 minutes, it can be in a full practice of fun songs. But it has to be reserved for something maybe last that you play so that you get that good taste in your mouth. You end on a good note, as my favorite joke is. Yes. But in this case, you want to finish with fun so that you remember why music was fun in the first place. So January is a really good time to like analyze what the next 6 months may be looking like for you. But let's start with those 3 months, because sometimes we don't want to bite off more than we can chew. But this entity of setting goals doesn't have to daunt us. It doesn't have to be so daunting. It doesn't have to overwhelm us or get us to the point where we're stressing out. If you know that you have a little bit of a heavier 3 months, then you can be like, you know what? Instead of pressing on to learning the structure, I'm going to really focus on tone quality, making sure that all my notes are really supported. Sometimes backtracking on our 1 to 5 Russian nesting doll actually works. And why I bring up Russian nesting doll is because also when you're in a practice and you're like, I'm kind of down on myself today, and I know that I wasn't really sounding good the last time that I practiced, but like, I remind myself again, what's my goal? So find this page again, find these sheets again, and be like, what is my goal? And if it's knowing your rhythms, for an example, then you can't get down on yourself for trying to breathe the song properly or add the emotions that you're not prepared for, or even worry about the tone quality because it kind of sucks today because it's just one of those days. But if you're playing your rhythms, okay, neat beans. So the Russian nesting doll kind of signifies, if you're only working on this doll, if you're only working on this goal, then only focus on this goal. Don't worry about the other ones. They haven't been created yet. You haven't put enough aesthetic work into it to be able to create the next step. And especially on those discouraging days, go back to this Russian nesting doll aspect and be like, right, what am I focused on today? Just the notes, just the notes, just the notes, or just the rhythm, just the rhythm, just the rhythm. And if I'm working on personally emotions, I'm not judging myself for playing a wrong note or playing a rhythm a little bit iffy or breathing in the wrong spot. I'm worried about, did I play those 4 bars as a crescendo like I wanted to? That's the whole aspect of goal setting, is being okay with where you're at on the day that you're at, no matter what. Musicianship is full of ups and downs. Sometimes it's the thing that creates stress. Sometimes it's the thing that relieves stress. But all in all, musicianships, especially the ones that commit to lessons, that one-on-one kinship that's developed, it means that you really want to work on your goals. It means that you really want to get better at your instrument. It means that you know that you have to struggle a little bit in order to actually get better. So well done with setting your goals for the last term. What goals are you going to plan to set for this term? Good luck.